Chapter 6, we made it past the halfway point. In the book, thought it was just me, but it isn't. Making the journey from What Will People Think to I Am Enough by Brene. As you can see, I have a lot of tabs. This is a book that's really helped me reflect back on my practices and not just my practices, but my habits. It helped me reflect more on my habits. And so chapter 6 is all about speaking shame. So what does it mean to speak shame? It's about using words to really convey our message. And when we can't find the right words, that's usually when we feel alone and sometimes even scared. So Brene talks about how speaking shame requires us to develop names and terms to describe some of the most painful and abstract concepts that we go through. And she has this part which I would love to read to you about speaking shame. When we speak shame, we learn to speak our pain, which I think that's one of the reasons why it's so hard, because we've been taught to stay away from pain. We are wired for connection, and this makes us wired for story. More than any other method, storytelling is how we communicate who we are, how we feel, what's important to us, and what we need from others. Without language, we cannot speak our stories. And so narrative therapist Jill Friedman, I hope I'm saying her name right, and Jean Combs writes that speaking isn't neutral or passive. Every time we speak, we bring forth a reality. Every time we speak, we bring forth a reality. And so that makes how we speak even more important. And sometimes we don't really pay attention to what we're saying. And because I didn't grow up in an environment where we spoke about our emotions, it's been a journey to find the right words. Like, what is that feeling? What is that? When I did my teacher yoga training, we had to do these reflections, and one of them is self-study, which is one of the yoga. Oh, now I can't remember. I get an F for that. The niyamas and the niyamas. So there's different, see, I'm getting all confused. But it's self-study. And so I chose to do self-study on my emotions because a lot of the times I didn't even know what emotion I was feeling. And I realized that my anxiety starts in my fingertips. And so that is a practice of connecting to your body and then connecting to those words. And so if you're missing that vocabulary, Brene Brown came out last year, I think it was, with a book called Atlas of the Heart. And she takes you from emotion to emotion, and she gives you examples. And if you don't want to look at a book, she also has a really good documentary on HBO, and I think it's called also Atlas of the Heart. And so that can give you some tools to develop that vocabulary around all the different emotions. And then later on, Brene talks about how when she notices that she's planning on how to get back at somebody, that means that she's missed a shame trigger. And another way that we can know if we are displacing or we're trying to redirect our feelings onto somebody else, that's also a common defense when we're in shame. And remember, I think it was chapter 1, and I talked about the shame, the web. And so she has this web, and when you're caught in a web, the harder you struggle, the harder it is to get out, the more entangled you get. And so, in order to get out of the shame web, we need to move slowly, we need to move with awareness and knowing why we're doing it and why we're doing it. And like anything, it'll take practice. And she also talks about when we are defending shame, usually we say things like, "You're so sensitive. I didn't realize you were so fragile. I didn't realize that was such an issue for you. You're so defensive. I guess I'll have to watch what I say around you. It's all in your head." And these are all things that I've said, and these are all things that have been said to me. And so being aware that I've been on both sides is just another essential component into moving and building our shame resilience. And just because something is accurate or factual doesn't mean that it can be used in a destructive manner. And I had another different yoga teacher telling us about the difference between being honest and being truthful. And a lot of us, I'm just gonna be honest with you, and then they go and break your heart. Or they might not break your heart, but they like hurt your feelings. And so being careful in that distinction of being honest or being truthful, and what intent do we have when we're using that phrase. So catch yourself. And then to close off, let's see. Brene talks about how shame is highly individualized experience. And so each of us it would be in our best interest to go back and look at the 12 shame categories and see our own triggers behind those things, see what messages are behind them, and to develop our own path, because this is her path, this is what has worked for her. But so you just take, this works for me, this doesn't. Take whatever works. And so noticing your language, going to check out that documentary or the book if you need more vocabulary, and just remember that we are all human, we all make mistakes, and that we are all connected to each other. When you remember that we are all connected, that can help you shift and how you react to somebody when someone hurts you, or how you react when you realize that you've hurt someone's feelings. And reach out to somebody to chat. Okay, much love. Till next time.